Buongiorno a tutti, mi chiamo Charlotte e oggi vi parlo della stagione dei gemelli, che vuol dire in inglese Gemini season. La stagione is season. Dei means of, the plural, something that's masculine, and then gemelli is the plural noun. Well, it's actually a sign, but so the name of the sign, the zodiac sign, is singular in that it's un segno, ma i gemelli sono plurale perché ce ne sono due persone, cioè i gemelli. So it's a bit confusing, this one, because Gemini is in Italian, it's a plural, like we're talking about the twins. I gemelli. Yes, in several other languages you might hear the word for twins used when referring to this sign, because the sign is indeed two individuals together representing kind of duality, that kind of stuff. But basically we're looking at a little bit of text that I found from an Italian website called astrocenter.it. See, astrocenter.it, which is a little description relating to La Stagione dei Gemelli. Okay, so don't be surprised when you see this sign that we're talking about referred to in the plural, because it is essentially talking about the twins. So the text I've found is of this one. I'm going to read it out, and then I'm going to read, I've underlined some of the, or all of the verbs, hopefully. So I'm pushing up the corner of the room here, so sorry about this. I've got a squeaky chair. And we've got some reflections to deal with, but it is what it is. So, La Stagione dei Gemelli è questo articolo che ho trovato su astrocenter.it intitolato Benvenuto nella stagione dei gemelli, tempo di leggerezza. So, the actual article that I'm taking the text from is entitled Welcome to Gemini season, time of lightness, tempo di leggerezza, lightness. Yes, please. So, la stagione dei gemelli. La stagione is the feminine noun. It's got a la in front of it, tells you this word is feminine. Normally, feminine nouns in Italian end with an A, like ragazza, macchina, casa, right? But sometimes you get a singular noun that ends with an E. Stagione. So the E, la lettera E in italiano si pronuncia E. A bit like the E in the word egg in English. E. La stagione. Okay, let's read it. Nel calendario astrologico i gemelli sono il primo dei segni d'aria. Punto is like full stop. Il suo arrivo tra la fine della primavera e l'inizio dell'estate suona quindi come una liberazione. I gemelli incoraggiano ogni segno zodiacale. Sorry, just so I can see the reflections here. Ad aprirsi al mondo, ad uscire a scoprire, stuzzica la nostra curiosità. Ok, lo vedete? Dove? Ah sì, è qua. Risveglia il nostro senso dell'umorismo, questo è importante, e rinvigorisce il nostro spirito, anche molto molto importante. Perciò ecco la spensieratezza, le feste, i flirt innocui e le idee che volano via. dalla lingua. Oh, there's some really lovely words in there. So what I like about like choosing a text that's come from somewhere else that I haven't written is that it exists on the internet already. Anyone who watches the video can go and find it. It comes from genuine Italian language. And because it isn't me who's written it, I'm not in control of the language that it contains. So when I happen to find a little text which is short enough to fit on my whiteboard, short enough to study in a video, relevant to the kind of vague area I want to study, it's quite nice to discover the language because often it's quite relevant to whatever's going on in my life. So there's some lovely verbs here. So in fact, I think I might have missed a few of the verbs. So what I'm going to just do on my separate, I'm using my tablet here to record this. That's why sometimes the filming looks a little bit different. I'm using different devices, different places all of the time. So what I'm going to do is just go on to word reference to double check some verbs because we've got some beautiful verbs. Okay, so dov'è? Ecco qua, c'è una lista di verbi che sono nel testo. Ah sì, questo mi piace. Ok, stuzzicare. Okay, beautiful. And what was the other thing that I wanted to check? Sì. Spensieratezza. Ah, beautiful. Spensieratezza. Okay, that makes sense because it's spensiera. Okay, right, yeah. Just checking some a noun there that I wasn't sure of in English, and also finding a way to translate one of the verbs, which I found now via wordreference.com, which is a brilliant way of checking verbs, like conjugations of verbs, like using it as a dictionary, a multilingual dictionary, a glossary, and a forum for discussion with other like linguophiles, basically. So here's some of the verbs that we see. Incoraggiare, aprire, or in this sense we've got aprirsi, which is okay, there's one R in incoraggiare, to open oneself up. So I'm just checking something. So incoraggiare only has one R. Oh no, ho scritto con una penna permanente. Vabbè, non importa, doesn't matter. I do know a way of actually like cleaning this off. So if ever you write on a whiteboard or anything else with a permanent marker, what you actually need to do is go and get some hand sanitizer, so the alcohol-based hand sanitizer, and just wipe it off with that. Okay, so there is a way of getting rid of permanent marker, but here I thought I was using a whiteboard pen. Uh-oh. Oh no. Fortunately, when I write the text out previously, I use this pen, which is a whiteboard pen. Non importa. Okay, so incoraggiare has one R, double G, to encourage. Aprire is to open, or aprirsi, as it appears in this text, is to open oneself. It's reflexive. Then we have scoprire, which means to discover or to uncover. Uscire is to go out, as in like to go outside, to go on a night out, just to go outside of something. Risvegliare, so svegliare is to wake up. Normally it's to wake oneself up. Mi sveglio, I wake myself up. But here it's not reflexive, but it's got this suffix re, which it means to do something again, so to reawaken something. Stuzzicare is to like to tease or to tempt. Similar in a way to encourage, but maybe with a bit more of a more of a coy undertone. Yeah, to provoke, to tease, to arouse. That's a very nice little verb there. Suonare is to sound or to ring. Volare is to fly, like the song. Volare, oh, cantare, oh. Essere is one of the auxiliary verbs. So that's one of the ones that you use when you use like, when you say sono inglese, sono americana, sono gallese, sono grande, sono piccola, sono stanca. So essere is to be, okay? It's an auxiliary verb. And you use it when you use certain compound verb structures, like for example, sono stata in Italia 2 volte. Sono tornata da scuola alle 4. Okay, so this is a really useful verb. Yeah, I think there's another one or two that we might have to come across, but I will have to remember not to use my permanent pen. So, let's go and look at this text now. We've had a look at some of the verbs. We've looked at the title and we've read through it. So, nel calendario, okay? In the, nel is the preposition in plus the article, the masculine singular article il. In plus il becomes nel, okay? That's like a combined or an articulated preposition. Calendario, masculine singular noun, calendar. Astrologico, so that's the adjective that astrological, describing the calendar. Calendario, il calendario ends with an O, so astrologico ends with an O, okay? It agrees with the gender of the noun calendario, which is masculine. Singular, which means there's one of them. I gemelli, Gemini, sono, they are, this gets a bit confusing, they are il primo, the first, dei is the preposition di plus the plural article i. Di più i fanno dei, okay? So that's just like another articulated preposition, okay? Dei segni d'aria. So, I gemelli sono il primo dei segni d'aria. In the astrological calendar, Gemini brackets they are, but in English we'd say Gemini is the first of the signs of air signs. Okay, so when we're looking at zodiac signs, we have 4 different elements. We've got air, we've got water, we've got earth, and we've got fire. So the air signs, of the air signs, there are 3 of each sign, and Gemini is the first of the air signs in the astrological calendar. Il suo arrivo, its arrival, again talking about the sign of Gemini, tra la fine della primavera. So tra means between, okay? It has other uses, but like you might hear it sometimes in time phrases like ci vediamo tra 10 minuti. That means like we'll see each other in around 10 minutes, between 10 minutes. Doesn't sound quite right, but that's another way that you might hear tra, which is a preposition being used to do with like approximations of quantities of time. Tra la fine, it's another one of these words that ends with an E. La fine, it's a noun that's feminine that ends with an E, like la stagione, okay? Between la fine is the end, della, that means of the, di più la fanno della primavera. La primavera, there's like a dance song which is like, senti, allora dammi la tua mano, la ti ferisco per il più bel tempo della primavera. La primavera dell'amore. That's an old song. It's not that old. It's like the 90s, late 90s. So primavera is the title of that song, and it means the spring. So its arrival between the end of the spring e l'inizio dell'estate, and, so e on its own without an accent means and. L'inizio, so we've got the L apostrophe and then inizio. So l'inizio is two words put together and you sound it like it's one word. The L here comes in front of nouns that start with a vowel. So A, E, I, O, and U. They're the vowels, I vocali. This is a word that starts with an I. It's a noun, it's a thing, the beginning, the start. It's not a physical thing like a table or a chair, but it is a noun, right? It's an idea. It's talking about something, the start, the beginning. L'inizio. So it looks a little bit like the word initial, initiation, if that helps. So because it starts with a vowel, an I, instead of saying il inizio, which is very difficult to say, we kind of make a liaison here where we put an L apostrophe, l'inizio. Masculine or feminine nouns that start with vowels will have an L in front of them in the singular. L'inizio, l'anno, l'anatra, example. So its arrival, again talking about the Gemini season. Between the end, la fine della primavera, the end of the spring, and l'inizio, the start, dell'estate. Here we have a word which is masculine, estate. It starts with a vowel. It ends with an E, okay, a bit like stagione or la fine, but this one's actually masculine, l'estate. So we've got dell'estate, the start of the summer. So instead of saying l'inizio di l'estate, which would be the start of the summer, di, which means of, and L apostrophe, which means the, becomes del. So we've got that all over the place. Here we've got nel, del apostrophe, della. That's just what happens in Italian. Prepositions have their individual form, unchanged form, and then they have all these different forms which will change depending on the gender and the number of the noun that follows them. Okay, so you hear dels, nels, sul, als, all those kind of things all over Italian, and it makes it sound very sing-songy. Okay, so its arrival between the end of the spring and the start of the summer, suona, so this is the third person singular, he, she, or it, sounds or resonates, or is to do with, let's see the rest of the sentence. Suona quindi come una liberazione. Okay, so the arrival of Gemini season, it's almost like it announces, there you go, to mark or to announce, but with the element of sound and song. Announces, therefore, quindi means therefore, come means as or like. Una liberazione. Now here we have another noun that's feminine that ends with an E. So in English we have words like liberation, nation, they end with T-I-O-N. In Italian they will tend to have a very similar equivalent, which might look quite similar, but will instead end with the A-Z-I-O-N-E, azione, liberazione. Even the word action in Italian is azione, okay, and they'll be feminine nouns generally. Una liberazione. So its arrival, talking about Gemini season, between the end of the spring and the start of the summer, announces therefore, or marks, or is like, let's just say it is like a liberation. I gemelli, we're talking about the sign now here, so we're just going to say Gemini in English. Or, no, actually, we're not. We're going to put it, because this is in, because of the way this sentence is structured, we are going to do it in the plural. Geminis, incoraggiano, that's the verb incoraggiare, one R, double G, to encourage. Ogni segno, so Geminis encourage every sign, segno. When you've got a G and an N in Italian, it's like a ñ sound. Ñ. So you'll see it in the word gnocchi. Delicious potato pasta. So Geminis encourage, they encourage, okay, it's the conjugated as the third person plural, they encourage each sign, segno zodiacale. So in Italian, the adjective, if we were to say zodiac sign in English, then the adjective precedes the noun. Zodiac comes first, sign comes second. But in Italian, it's generally the other way around. They encourage each sign zodiacale. Okay, so instead of having an O or an A at the end here, this adjective that describes what the sign is, it says a zodiac sign, zodiacale, doesn't end with an O or an A here, which is generally the rule. Generally, an adjective will agree with the gender and the number of the noun it's corresponding to. Okay, but here we just have an E at the end. That happens sometimes, it's fine. There's another one, giovane. So the word giovane means young. Okay, they end with an E whether you're talking about a girl or a boy. Triste is another one. Triste means sad. Felice means happy. They end with an E. So I could say io sono felice. Or I could say lui, he, è triste. Okay, so the ending of these specific adjectives that end with an E, they'll just end with an E regardless of the gender, basically. So Geminis encourage each sign, zodiac sign, ad aprirsi, to open themselves up. Aprirsi is a reflexive verb. That's why it's got C at the end. Aprirsi al mondo, open up to the world, literally. Al means to, the. A means to, il means the. Al together means a combined preposition. Ad aprirsi al mondo. Hang on a minute. Just rub this out a little bit with my thumb. Okay, let's put it in. Ad uscire. So it's still talking about what Gemini does, what Geminis can do. I gemelli incoraggiano ogni segno. They encourage every zodiac sign ad aprirsi, to open up to the world, al mondo, ad uscire, a scoprire, to go out and discover, right? Stuzzica la nostra curiosità, so to tease or they provoke our curiosity. La nostra curiosità, we've got a grave accent on the A here, which is very similar to the nouns ending with a Y in English. Curiosità, libertà, liberty, curiosity. And they tend to be feminine. So la nostra is the nostro, nostra, nostre, nostri, all of those variations are of the possessive adjective that means our. So in Italian, instead of saying our in one word, they would say la nostra, or il nostro, or le nostre, or I nostri, depending on whether the thing that we're talking about, our family, la nostra famiglia, i nostri genitori, i nostri, il nostro telefonino, our our mobile phone. So possessive adjectives are quite complicated for, say, English native speakers, because they depend on the gender and the number of the thing you're describing rather than the person whose thing it is. So his and her doesn't really exist in Italian. It's either il suo, or la sua, or le sue, or I suoi. We'll come on to that in a different video probably. So let's just see. So Geminis encourage each zodiac sign to open themselves up to the world, to go out, to discover. Uscire is to go out. A scoprire is to go out to discover. So there's two verbs here. that should be a comment. Stuzzica la nostra curiosità, so to tease out or to provoke our curiosity. Risveglia il nostro senso dell'umorismo, so to reawaken. So I told you there's some really nice verbs. Our sense of humor, senso dell'umorismo, e rinvigorisce, and to reinvigorate il nostro spirito, to reinvigorate our spirit. Well, that's quite nice, isn't it? So to reinvigorate, to encourage, to tease, to provoke, to reawaken, all super supportive verbs. Very, very positive indeed. And then we've also got nouns like liberazione, umorismo, curiosità. This is a nice one that I had to check earlier. Rinvigorisce, to reinvigorate il nostro spirito. Spirito is spirit. Hang on a sec, I have to check out one thing. Therefore. Yes, therefore. So, perciò, for this reason, therefore. Ecco, here is, or there is. Ecco, la spensieratezza, light-heartedness. There is light-heartedness. Le feste, parties, festivities, plural. I flirt innocuous, flirtation. E le idee and ideas that volano, that fly via dalla lingua. Via means away, to fly away from, to fly out of. Dalla lingua, da and then la together means from the. La lingua is the tongue. So, via dalla lingua. Le idee che volano via dalla lingua. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just read back through this again. See now that we've identified some of the verbs and some of the lovely nouns and the pronunciation and the other bits of language and stuff. Let's just have a look back at the, excuse that one there with the spelling mistake. There's only one R in incoraggiare, to encourage. Let's look at these verbs first. Incoraggiare is to encourage. Aprire is to open. Aprirsi is to open oneself up. Scoprire is to discover or uncover. Uscire is to go out. Risvegliare is to reawaken. Let me just check something. Yeah. Rinvigorire is to reinvigorate, to bring life again to something. Essere is to be. Volare is to fly. These are wicked verbs. Suonare is to sound or to ring, or I think I translated it as to announce. It just depends on the context. Or to mark. Okay, but it's got a sense of sound. Okay. Stuzzicare is to tease or to tempt or to provoke or to encourage it. Like could be a positive sense here, but it could be used, I guess, in a negative sense in other contexts. So there's the verbs. Now, let's just ascoltate. La stagione dei gemelli. Nel calendario astrologico i gemelli sono il primo dei segni d'aria. L'aria, ok? Il suo arrivo tra la fine della primavera e l'inizio dell'estate suona quindi come una liberazione. I gemelli incoraggiano ogni segno zodiacale ad aprirsi al mondo, ad uscire, a scoprire, risveglia il nostro senso dell'umorismo e rinvigorisce il nostro spirito. Perciò ecco spensieratezza, la spensieratezza, lightheartedness, le feste, festivities, i flirt innocui, innocuous flirting, e le idee che volano via dalla lingua. Beautiful. Okay, so let's just look at it one more time together and I'll translate. And then e poi basta. La stagione dei gemelli, Gemini season. Nel calendario astrologico, in the astrological calendar, i gemelli sono il primo dei segni d'aria. Gemini is the first of the air signs. Talking about the elements here. Okay. Il suo arrivo tra la fine della primavera e l'inizio dell'estate suona quindi come una liberazione. Its arrival between the end of spring and the start of the summer marks, therefore, sounds, therefore, is like a liberation. I gemelli incoraggiano ogni segno zodiacale ad aprirsi al mondo. So Geminis encourage each zodiac sign to open up to the world, ad uscire a scoprire, to go out and discover. Stuzzica la nostra curiosità, teases or provokes our curiosity. Risveglia il nostro senso dell'umorismo, reawakens our sense of humor, e rinvigorisce il nostro spirito and reinvigorates our spirit. Perciò, therefore, ecco la spensieratezza, lightheartedness, therefore there is lightheartedness, le feste, i flirt innocui, festivities, parties, innocuous flirting, e le idee che volano via dalla lingua, and ideas that fly out of one's mouth. Ok? Allora, va bene. Ok, adesso faccio più o meno la stessa cosa, ma in francese. Grazie mille e alla prossima volta. Ciao!